Now we can kick things off. So Natalia, I think this is your first coaching call, correct? And Renee, have you been to a coaching call yet? If you guys haven't, there is chat. You can also unmute yourself. We got a small group today, so you'll have plenty of time to chitter chat with conversation. And how these work is basically either you can say, I have a question, or I will call on you and you can have a question. So Natalia, have you gotten into any of the trainings yet, or even work through that scheduling of where your time should be spent and how to rework your schedule? You do have to unmute for me to be able to hear you if you're listening.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah, now I can.
Can you hear me now? Okay. So I started the Know Your Numbers and the what else? That's it. So I've been working on my P&L. I got a little confused since I haven't done an Excel sheet before, so it was just a little confusing to add a row with the formula because I needed more expenses to be added to the rows. So
got it. So you're talking about the working through the financial trainings and that financial analysis spreadsheet, right?
Yes, the P&L. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay. Yep. And then do you have any sort of bookkeeping software like QuickBooks or anything that you're using outside of just these Excel spreadsheets to track money coming in and money going out of your business? Okay, cool.
No.
Cool. So this is a great, I love when people come into the programs and they're not using that stuff, because it's great to use that stuff. If you don't know where those numbers are coming from in QuickBooks, it's good to like go through and actually create the structure yourself. That way, when you start to implement something like QuickBooks, you'll know where that money's coming in. You'll kind of know it. So we're doing like the really manual part of it. But those are great practices to get in place. What you're going to find, what we usually see happening is people are, oh, I'm way overspending in this area. I don't need to spend that much. And it'll help you kind of track and be able to manage your money better. So I know it can seem overwhelming because it's the first time that we're doing it, but I promise you it does get easier and more streamlined and more simplified. But yeah, you're biting off something that you've never done before. And I think it's going to give you so much clarity on where money has been going and where maybe you retain and invested into a new team member. So
absolutely.
Did you figure out how to add the row and get that spreadsheet set up?
No.
Okay. So did you open it in Microsoft, what was it, Google Forms, where it's still online? Because I can help you set up.
Yes.
Okay, so can you share the link? And I'll share my screen real quick just so you can see how to do that.
Okay.
So when you open it up, you see my screen? Okay, so you're just going to go to the blue button. You're going to say share. You're going to want to say anyone with the link, this may be defaulted to something else, and is an editor is a really important one, because that's how we can work in your screen. Otherwise, we can't edit anything. So if you want to copy the link and paste it in the chat in Zoom, then I can pull it up and just show you real quick how to do it.
Okay, let me see.
And anytime you guys are using any softwares that are not ours, I mean, we don't have a software, it's always best to ask either Google it, YouTube search for what you're trying to do, or ask the support software, like your booking software, you don't know how to do something, ask their chat. You're going to get an answer so much quicker rather than just getting stuck and not moving forward. Yeah.
So hold on. I got it here. Where do I go for the share thing?
Yep, in the chat on Zoom. So if you're on your phone, usually you can tap the screen. There'll be the 3 little dots. You can pull that up and you'll see the chat. Or you can see a little bubble pop up from what I just typed.
Got it. Oh. Share.
Okay, while you're working on that, I'm going to check in with Renee. Miss Renee, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Good to see you in here. How are things going getting through the trainings?
Well, I was stuck for a long time doing the individual services because there's just a lot. And even going through that process, I eliminated a few things and changed a few things.
Nice.
But now I'm
Good.
starting on the next section. So
Okay, so you've gotten through the where are you still on the financials, right?
nope, I finished financials.
Oh, do you have the link to share so we can go through it and kind of
Sure.
start to make some observations? Sweet,
Sure.
let's do that.
Give me just a
We're
second.
gonna do the same thing that Natalia's doing. Natalia, were you able to share it, or do you need some help?
Yes, I think. See if that works.
Yep, I saw it come through. I think it's going to be view only, just because it says view. Yep. So you're going to want to make sure that you change the permissions. So when you click that, are you on your mobile phone? From
Yes.
there? Okay, it'll look different. Let me walk you through that real quick. So if you're on your mobile phone, hold on. So you're going to press the three little dots up in the top right corner.
Okay.
You're going to go share and export.
It's only giving me, when I press the three little dots, it only shows me find or details. Is that how it's?
Find or details.
So I
Are you
press the three
logged
dots.
in? Yeah, you've been able to edit the spreadsheet altogether, right?
Yes.
Yeah, if you're the owner of the spreadsheet in that account, you should have options to share it and manage the access. And I'm thinking that maybe you're logged into a different Google account than the one that is the owner of that document.
Got you. Oh my God.
Does that sound familiar?
Maybe. Let
Okay.
me see.
Check and see if you're logged into a different account than
Okay.
the one in that document. If not, I'll bring up, we'll go through Renee's and I'll show you manually how to do it. So at least you can see how it's done. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Try that out. All right, Renee, you got yours to share?
That should be it.
Yep, it looks like it. Oh, you need to change the
setting.
So right here, it needs to be anyone with the link, not restricted.
Okay.
Let me know when you've done that. And I don't know that you'll have to share the link again. You might.
It's done.
All right, let's see. Yeah, cool. It is view only. So if you can make it edit, that way if I need to plug in anything, that would help.
Oh, yeah.
So again,
just
right here,
a second.
you can change that.
Okay, hold on. Show me that again. This view only.
So you've got anyone
under share.
And this one is
change to
and then
editor.
this one is
okay.
editor. Yeah. Sweet.
Just when you think you got it figured out.
I know. You guys didn't know you're going to get a Google Office 101 in this course, did you?
No, I didn't.
There we go. All right, cool. So, all right, what's your business name, just so I can put it in there?
The Glow Studio.
That's right. All right, awesome. So, your 2023. So this is your business down here, right?
Right.
And then this is the example one, or is this yours as well?
That's the example. I just left it up there in case I need to copy it at some point. I didn't start tracking financials like a business person until August after I had done the training on accounting.
The Know Your Numbers masterclass?
And yeah. And then whenever I got started was when my mom got sick. So the numbers are crazy.
Okay. All right. But we've got some good data going. Cool. All right. And then you're still going to work on February. All right. So let's take just a quick glance at it. We always read the spreadsheets from right to left because the profitability is going to be on the right side, the way that we have all these spreadsheets laid out. The left side is just more data. When we get to the price per minute spreadsheet, that's where we really look at how much control and what can we fix. And we start from the right because that has the least impact on clients and or team members. So first and foremost, just based on those months, you were profitable, right? So we've got that going for us, which is awesome. Now we did have a really big month that took it out.
Yeah, August was more of an average month, not high
Beautiful.
average, but average. And
Beautiful.
then it went downhill from there. So
yeah. So if we look at, because that was like personal life getting into things, right? So it wasn't necessarily a reflection of anything else.
I was closed for 2 months, and
that'll do it. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So this is where data helps, right? Because if we looked at the big picture, we'd be like, oh, well, she had 139% loss that month and she's only at 8% profit. But that was other things at play. And the fact that you can speak to why those numbers look the way they are is all the expectation we have for you to be financially savvy, is to be able to look at a number and go, I know why that number's that way. Here's where I fixed it, or I need help fixing it. Then we can start to work to fix those numbers. So if we're just going to look at August as like, that's a traditional month for you. Then let me kind of just give that a little highlight, because from profitability standpoint, it's great. 34% profit. The benchmarks that we work you guys towards for cost of goods sold, and this is with a team member, is 30 to 40%. Your operating expenses, 40 to 50%, and your profitability, 20 to 30%. Now, this is just benchmarks that I've seen when we have really healthy businesses that are multiple 6 and 7 figures. This is generally the range that I saw them in when they were operating really lean and built out a team. So that's how these benchmarks came to be, is me looking over many, many P&Ls over the years and finding what was the formula for success. So this is now what we aim to get you guys into for your businesses, so that you can have a 20 to 30% profit margin with a team. All of that is going to be your pay. So as you start to grow and scale your business, we want to stay within those ranges. Now, for sure, you can be above it, you can be below it. Generally speaking, if you're above it, without a team, these numbers would change, right? So without a team, you should be more profitable, right? You don't have labor costs, it's essentially you. So your pay is going to come from profitability. So we can see solo business owners go from 40 to even 60 or 70% profit if they're really, really lean in how they run their business.
Well, the good thing is that since June or July, I've been paying myself commission instead of just not being accountable at all. So that's with my 50% commission. Of course,
so your cost of goods sold is your commission.
So
okay. So this 1612 includes a 50% commission on sales. Is that correct?
No, maybe I didn't on that month. Never mind. July or August was when I was supposed to have started.
Okay.
Maybe my numbers are wrong.
Well, I mean, this is where you go get curious. What does that $1,600 entail? Because cost of goods sold should just be supplies.
Right.
If you don't have a team member yet, or you're not paying yourself. Now, to clarify, when you guys, when you're paying yourself, what we want eventually when you start to hire a team member is for you to be on some version of a salary as opposed to an hourly. Now, you could do hourly, but we like to have you paid whether you're taking clients or not, because that's the whole goal, is for you to pull back from the treatment room. But if it's easier for you when you start to just start with clocking in hourly and you want to do it that way, fine. But eventually your pay is going to come from one of two places as a business owner.
I know
if you were on payroll.
I paid myself. I paid myself commission in June and July.
Okay.
And then August didn't happen.
Okay. Okay, that tracks. I mean, there should have been $1,700 left over.
It helped because that left money in the account during the lean time.
Right. So you saved your butt, essentially. Without knowing it.
At that point, my parents started helping my pocketbook because I was starting to deal with that whole thing.
Okay. So even though your pay wasn't included in this, it's still a really good month, right? You were kind of across the board with everything being the same profit, operating expenses, and COGS. So if we were to take that month and copy and paste it, and that's kind of how we ran our business, those percentages, you're pretty much within range. We could probably invest a little bit more back into the business. But if we're looking at hiring a team, the profitability is going to drop because your cost of goods sold is going to go up. But eventually that team member will produce sales and we'll go up from there. So there's nothing with that month that's all that wild and crazy. Now, as a general rule of thumb, I always say this every time we talk about this, especially somebody first getting into this. We always want to get in a good habit at least once a quarter, go through our operating expenses. with a fine-tooth comb just to make sure we're not having any expenses that we're not aware of, or things that are like auto billing that, like I call the death by the $10 subscription, and just evaluate all of our expenses. Is it a need or a want? And the way that you can distinguish between a need and a want is it's a need when I'm willing to fire someone over it. Like my rent. I would fire someone before I got rid of my rent cost, if that makes sense. Because if I don't have rent, I have nowhere to host a business. A want is I'm not willing to fire someone over it. Right? So that's a real like extreme way of looking at it, but it will really help put you in check of, is this a need versus a want? So yeah, that's how we can look at our expenses and start to get a really lean business so that we can invest into a team and still have profitability left over. So Renee, that's going to be your next homework, is looking into your expenses. You can look at just the January and February expenses and just go through each transaction. Are these needs? Are they wants? Did I overspend on something? Could I have pulled back there? And just start to get curious about the spending behavior. Now, your expenses don't seem all that outrageous that I think that you're overinflating or you're spending too much on things. You seem to be pretty lean. Oh, we're just
and I've got really reasonable rent for the size of my space, and I'm in a good position as far as that goes. Cool.
I agree. Yeah. And then same thing for supply costs. If is the 1,800, all that kind of stuff, just generally just supplies?
No, it's other things.
Like what?
It's it's the rent and utilities and all of the expenses together.
But what are your operating expenses then?
I guess I lumped it all together.
Okay. So yeah, this is a great conversation to distinguish the difference between cost of goods sold, or COGS, and your operating expenses. So let's start with cost of goods sold. The cost of goods sold is anything that we need, either any expense we need in order to produce the sale. It has to be there for us to get the sale, which would be a team member, right? A labor cost associated, like a service provider. A receptionist is not required for us to have the sale. We can have the sale happen with or without a receptionist, right? So a receptionist pay would actually fall under operating expenses. But a service provider, we can't get the results of the service without the service provider to do the service. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to, really the only other thing is supplies. Supplies related to the service. Now, pens at the front desk, we can still produce the service and the results and have somebody check out with us without pens, right? So pens would be an operating expense supply. But your lashes, your adhesive, your iPads, all of those things, we need those to produce the service. So those would fall under cost of goods sold. So that's the distinction I want you to make. It's your fixed expenses, usually like rent and your utilities and your booking software, those are operating expenses. They are not a part of the service being produced. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. If you have any questions on, transactions and you're not sure, post in the Facebook group. Let us support you in figuring out what that is. It's always great to have an accountant or a bookkeeper just to kind of reference some of those things. But for the most part, your supplies related to the service itself and your labor costs related to the service are all that's going to go under cost of goods sold. Everything else will go under operating expenses. Even when we talk about owner's pay, there's two different places that you'll get paid from. First and foremost, if you are on any sort of salary, you will your pay will be an operating expense because it's going to happen whether you produce sales or not, right? We want you guys paying yourself consistently. Even if you're starting off with $500 a month or $200 a month or just something consistently. If you want to pay yourself hourly, technically, I guess, if you're the only service provider, you could put your labor cost at your hourly pay under cost of goods sold because you are the one that's producing the sales. Eventually, when you have a team, you'll be on some version of a salary. Generally speaking, I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this, but eventually when you guys get to have $100,000 or more in your business, you're going to want to talk to your accountant about filing taxes as an S corporation. Okay, you'll still be an LLC or whatever you are legally, but for tax purposes, filing as an S corp, it's a way to protect yourself. It's also a way to have a tax saving strategy, because you'll pay yourself a base minimum salary. I pay myself $36,000 a year as an officer of the company. I do owner's distributions on top of that. So basically, when there's profit in the business, that's where the rest of my income comes from. I am avoiding payroll taxes when I do that. Totally legal, totally normal. You're avoiding payroll taxes in that distribution. So that's where the profit, basically anything left over in the business, you can transfer to your business or to your personal account. And that would be how you'd be doing an owner's distribution or an owner's draw. So that's essentially where we want everybody to be. Where you're at, Renee, in your business, it probably doesn't make sense for you to do that. You can always check with an accountant to have it formatted that way. So whether you want to put yourself on a salary or have yourself paid hourly, that's fine. When you have a team member come on, you guys can both be hourly. That's fine. The only thing that's going to make that a little bit tricky is we look at your pay essentially as the profit of the business. So if you have yourself at a flat hourly rate, you know you're going to pay yourself $15 an hour for 40 hours a week or whatever, and that's just what you run payroll as, and that's just what you're going to be ongoing. Great. Then your income can increase when you have profitability here, and you can talk to your accountant about how you collect on that profit. Okay. So clean up those numbers, just, go back through, make sure that your cost of goods sold is just basically supplies. If you're paying yourself hourly, your pay can go in there for now. And then make sure that you increase your expenses accordingly. Whatever you're taking out of these can go over here. So that's probably going to get your operating expenses to come up to more within range of probably what we're used to, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, let me make some notes on this and then we'll look at your price per minute spreadsheet. So all right, the next thing that we look at, price per minute. Yeah, let me make my screen a little bit bigger. All right, so this one again, we go from right to left. So operating expenses, I'm going to bump this up a little bit since we were a little bit, we were off on where the operating expenses are. I'm going to put you in about, let's do 45%. Put you right kind of smack in the middle. Hold on. Okay. So these numbers will change as you go through and you get more clear on, get more accurate data, if that makes sense. So the advice or the strategy I may give you now may change just based on what this operating expense actually ends up being.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So at a 45% operating expense, which is what you're at now, your services look great in the profit. Again, remember, we want to be 20 to 30% profit with a labor cost included. So you're already above that for most of your services. We also look at an average, right? So some you may only be at like 18% and some you may be at 35%. Well, when you add those together, the average is somewhere in the mid 20s. So as long as you're averaging on your most popular services, the range that you want to be in, ideally between 20 and 30%, chef's kiss. So let's look at, what are your most popular services? Just like the top 5.
That would be the custom and Genesis Glow, which is basically the same thing. That's why they're together. And I do a lot of Brazilians. Okay. And there's quite a bit of deep tissue massage. Those are probably my 3 biggest at the moment.
Beautiful. And that's kind of what you're looking to hire, is to have somebody who can do all of those?
Yes. Well,
cool.
The massage is going to be separate in my area. It's hard to find somebody that's both an SD and
dual license.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you looking to hire just, what's your first hire ideally? An esthetician?
My first hire is going to be an SD so that I can eventually have them trained in all of the esthetician services.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. And then you'll continue to do the massage stuff. All right. Okay. So then we want to look really at the profitability of those services just to see where we're at and kind of make some analysis on the numbers. So for the custom Genesis Glow, 25, call it 26%. I'm just going to pull up my calculator. And then on average, about 37% for the Brazilians. So you're looking at about a 31% profitability when you average those together. So great, because you already have your labor cost included here. Okay, we're going to work backwards. So again, we talked about the operating expenses. Try to get lean, make sure that your numbers are correct on the P&L, that we've got the right operating expenses. If you find that that number, and again, we'll specifically just keep it with, how did you, in February, were you starting to get back, or was February still an odd month?
February was still an odd month. This is my first month totally back.
Okay. Well, we're wrapping up March too. So I think, between you going back and doing the numbers for August and then you doing the numbers correctly in March, you should have a pretty good idea of what your operating expenses are in a normal month, quote unquote. Okay.
Okay.
So that's what you'll change this number to if needed. If those numbers are wildly different. Now, if it's like 2 or 3 percentage points off, I'm not worried about it. Okay. So supply cost, what we look for is we want to make sure that for lash supplies, which you don't do lashes, that it's under 10 cents. The only outliers I see, Carrot and Brow, Brazilian, a little on the high side, but it's a shorter service, so that's why. So I'm not really worried about your operating or your supply cost being outrageous. And I think really when they're so high like this is high in a cost per minute, it's because it's a very short service, which is why. Like lashes are anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. Okay.
Right.
And then 26 cents. So we're looking at a $12 an hour starting rate. Is that correct?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. I'm cool with that. For context, she's in West Virginia. So, and your minimum wage is what? Like $8 an hour?
It's 8 something. It's like $8.75.
Yeah. Okay. So that's great. So love that. 30-minute service. That looks great. $75 price point. Again, that's how you're getting here. So just to kind of, for shits and giggles, let's say we can get these Brazilians down to 20 minutes. Watch how it affects the profitability. Okay. So watch that number that I've highlighted, but I'm going to change it to 20. All of a sudden we get 4% more profit. Yeah. So that's how we can start to really work the numbers and see how it adjusts the spreadsheet and how it affects our profitability. So if we have a new hire, it may take her an hour in the first onboarding to do a Brazilian, right?
Oh yeah.
Or client. But in her training, okay, so we can still play with, are we profitable when she produces a sale? Well, if it takes an hour and we charge the same price point, we're still profitable. Now we may offer a discount to get clients in the door, right? Well, now all of a sudden we're at 19%, but that's okay because you're still within range and she's onboarding. Even if those of you, and Renee has a very profitable business to begin with, at least as far as the numbers are concerned, even if you go through and adjust those numbers of like, okay, what price point do I want to charge for a new hire when I'm starting to get clients in the door? Maybe her service time needs to be higher and longer because she's still in onboarding. Even if you're losing money with those numbers while she's in her onboarding, you are investing into the business to train a team member to be able to produce the results.
Correct.
Now, the way that we have this spreadsheet laid out with the labor cost is pretty much once they're fully booked. Okay.
Yeah.
So I do want to clarify that the 20% buffer means that they're 80% of the time they're producing sales. So 80% of the hours they're producing sales. That's what we consider fully booked. We don't consider fully booked 100% of the time they're with a client. We say 80% because once you start getting past 80%, we start taxing our person and burning them out because it's literally like back to back to back to back clients, and it gets to be very hard on their bodies, very hard on their mindset. They don't have time to pee, to stretch, to like check clients in and out or whatever. So as far as your numbers are concerned, there is not anything on the spreadsheet that I'm super hyper concerned about of like, we need to fix this first before you put up your job posting. Okay.
Right.
Cool. All right. Well, then carry on.
I'm even hoping that you know, in the beginning when they're not, I think that for me, that was the biggest scare of stepping forward and doing this program and starting to hire was that I won't be able to pay them because they won't be fully booked. And doing these numbers has calmed me down a lot about it.
Yay! Hold on. Are you able to gosh, I want to share this stuff because like it's one thing if I say it, but it's another one you guys are like, I was so freaked out about this. Yeah. Do you mind if we use that clip?
Absolutely
somewhere?
not.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Because it gives you a problem to solve for, right? Like here you have it. You need 2.5 clients at your $98 service for her to break even to cover her pay. Right? And she's there 20 hours. So, if she only has 2 to 3 hours of work in a 20-hour work week.
Yeah.
Right?
And see, if you look at the very top, I did a base of minimum wage. So I would see what that was.
Yeah.
And that kind of helped me judge. I mean, to be paying somebody better than minimum wage isn't that too much of a difference.
Not at the price points
Look
you're
at
at.
it that way.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, I 100% agree. And it helps clarify and it doesn't make it so scary.
Right.
Oh, it's only 2 clients. Like, yeah, we can get her 2 clients. Even if you're discounting on the services, right? That's what you change is the price of the average service. So
right.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm so glad you got clarity in that. All right. So after you get those numbers fixed, spreadsheet, price per minute sheet looks great. Move on to the hiring process phase.
Now you're making my heart palpitate.
Oh, girl, we're going to give you, I'm going to say that your job posting is going to be up in the next 2 weeks and you're going to start having interviews by end of April, if not sooner. Welcome.
I don't know what
Why is your heart palpitating?
Oh my.
What are you worried about?
It's just, I guess it's just scary. Whatever.
What is scary?
Bringing in employees.
What is scary about that? Get specific.
It's just the fear of failing.
Okay, how are you labeling failing? What is failing?
Not being able to afford to do it and not doing it correctly.
Okay, let's talk through it.
But that's why I'm here.
You're not the only one who feels that way, right? You're not the only one who feels that way. So, you are equating failure equals not being able to afford it, you said?
Yep.
That's one avenue. And then failure also equals not doing it correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
And when I say that, I mean not just, filing your taxes and making sure the pay is right, but having them onboarded correctly and trained correctly. I'm concerned about all of that because I have spent a lot of time building a business where my clients trust me 100%. And they have to be trained to be able to offer the same services in the same way. And for me, I'm a little fearful that other people could come in and not provide the same level of service and therefore affect my business.
Okay, hold on. Now, the rest of you put in the chat. Anybody ever felt that way? Have those same concerns? Because you are not alone in that. All right, first and foremost, not being able to afford it is a fear that you have, and then you would be a failure if you couldn't make payroll, right?
Right.
Is that belief? Okay.
It's that responsibility for other people, I guess.
Okay, that might be a different definition. Because being able to afford it and being responsible for somebody is not the same thing.
That's
so is
true.
that another fear or is it in place of it?
It's in place of it because I think by seeing the numbers, I don't have that fear of being able to do it number wise. I think it's the fear of the responsibility of somebody else's income.
Oh gosh, making me type responsibility of someone.
See, I'm just full of it today.
Oh, I love this stuff. Give me this all day long. All right. So fear of failure, of not being able to afford it. What is the actual proof, or how do we solve for that? you know you need at least 3 clients a week, or her to have 3 clients a week to afford it. So now you
Okay.
have a number, right? So if you are short one week, you know we need to do more marketing to get at least 3 clients a week, right?
Right.
Right. We're not even talking about full, you don't do those. Let's put it in your terms for your services. So if you did, let's see, Brazilians. Yeah, it would be kind of the same, like 3 or 4 Brazilians in a week at a 30-minute service. That's 2 hours of work.
Yeah.
And she'd cover herself. Okay. So that helps the fear go away, because now we have a problem to solve for, or a goal to work towards.
Right.
Okay. Now, in the first couple of weeks, you may not have any clients. In fact, we generally don't have them taking paying clients for the first 3 to 4 weeks. So you're going to be technically losing money in that sense, if you want to look at it that way. We look at it as, if you look at a whole year of your business, right? And you look at, let's just say that team member at part-time can produce about $5,000 in sales when we've done the marketing and we've done all of this to get her booked, right? Because you had $5,000 in sales in August. So it would make sense that
And
she
I
could
work
probably produce
very
that.
part-time compared to other
Yeah.
folks.
Right. And they could work a lot more. So
Right.
if we're averaging, part-time work, and she produces $5,000 in sales, and we look over a year, that's $60,000 in sales coming in from somebody else. And your cost to it at $12 an hour, see, $12 an hour times 20 hours a week. We'll add in the payroll tax of 8%. It's about $260 a week. And let's just say you're open for 48 weeks out of or let's say 50 weeks a year, like off for maybe Christmas and like random holidays here and there. So that's $13,000 in payroll expenses that generates $60,000 in sales. So when you look and you pull back and you're not so narrow focused on, oh my God, I'm losing money this week on her, we're playing a bigger game here.
Right.
So I'm okay. And I know it sounds scary, especially when it's your first hire. It is that weird transition of like, you're still doing everything in the business and taking on this training. But I promise you, once they get to about month 2 and maybe even to month 3 of their business, you're starting to see the relief, because they're starting to produce sales, and all of a sudden the business starts to take on a life outside of you.
Yeah.
And that's what we want, right? So I will be very transparent. I have had a shit time in my personal life over the past 2 months since my daughter broke her leg. I've maybe worked 5 hours a week, maybe, because I haven't been able to. She has just taken all of my energy. Like, she couldn't even walk for a couple weeks. And yet our business has grown. Why? Because I have a team that can run it without me. It's no longer about my time. Now, yes, I still have to show up. I would love to work more. In fact, this week, I think, is the first week I've been able to like actually focus in more work. But that's the game we're playing, where the business can live without you. And for your clients to still be serviced in an amazing way, even if you're not 100% there. And it sounds like you've had the experience where your personal life has really pulled you back, and your clients haven't been able to be serviced at the level that they expect and that they want, because you haven't been as available. So all the more reason to have a team member that can do that. Okay. So we can look at the data and go, okay, this is where the reassurance comes from. If I get 3 clients a week, I will not fail at being able to afford a new hire. Okay. And that's what we can help you work through, and just in her onboarding, but really in the masterminds where we work on the marketing and the scaling, and like fully getting you out of the treatment room and being able to do a lot more marketing, grow the business, and track the data. Okay. So fear of responsibilities, somebody else's income. Can you kind of share with me what specifically that is for you?
Having come from the struggle bus myself,
Okay.
I very highly regard the respect for another person and their income. I mean, like, it's amazing. Usually in like somebody's first or second facial, I'm actually selling more product than I'm charging for them to be there for the facial.
Okay.
But I have just this gentle way about me that is very respectful of other people's income. And so that goes all the way across the board for me, that I very
Respectful
highly
of other people's
regard
income.
that.
Hold on. Talk to me about that. Respectful of other people's income. What does that mean?
That means that I value their budget, and I value what it takes to run a household.
Okay. That is going to make you broke, and is why you're not paying yourself.
Oh, I know.
You
But
are,
what
you are,
doesn't make sense is if
no,
you
no,
would
no,
see
no
my
buts. No, you're going to let me finish because you're bringing in your limiting belief. You
okay,
are not responsible for somebody else's choice on what they do and do not spend on. You're also robbing yourself of opportunities to increase the growth of the business because you are making justifications for somebody else's lived experience. It's called codependency
I
in a
know.
lot of ways. You think controlling somebody else's, oh, I'm not going to offer this to them because I know like they just bought a new car, or I know that their baby's got medical expenses, like all this. It's not your job. It's actually incredibly insulting to some clients too if you don't offer them something because you've got your head in their wallet and you're justifying what they can and cannot spend on. Your clients are purchasing services from you that you may not even purchase for yourself. Your team is choosing to work for you at $12 an hour that you may never work for that yourself. You don't get to decide what other people's money situation is and where they do and do not spend their money. All you do is create the opportunity and manage the financials so that money continues to come in.
Yeah, I know, and that's me placing my fears on other people, and
100%.
yeah,
Because where you're also missing for your own fear of failure is the choice that every person has, including you. Failure is a choice. It's not something that just happens to you. First and foremost, where we even label something as a failure is a choice. So you gave me 3 different definitions of failure. So if you do just one of those things, you're going to label everything as a failure because your
yeah,
brain has equated these series of events as a failure. You don't want to fail, change the meaning of failure. Because I can look at this. Look, we've had one of our mastermind members had an issue last month where she wasn't able to make payroll. Okay? That wasn't a surprise. It was a series of events that she made choices that ended up where there wasn't enough money in the bank account to make payroll. And you know
yeah,
what? Her business didn't shut down. It was not pleasant, but she had to make different business decisions. But those were a series of months of decisions that she made and choices she made that got her to that point. It wasn't just like all of a sudden one day, whoops. You have ultimate control. And if anybody has control of making payroll or not, it's the owner, right?
right.
If you're not getting enough clients in a week to support payroll, whose fault is that?
That would fall back on
The
me.
owner. Right? And so what
Yep.
can you do since it's your choice and your decision? What do you do to make up for the fact that you didn't have clients that week? What is the solution? Marketing.
Yep. Do more marketing, bring in
Marketing.
more clientele.
Yeah. So that you don't run into that set of circumstances again. Not that you failed, but that you learned. I learned not making payroll is really painful and it really affects my team. And I never want a point where I can't run payroll again. So you know what? I need to focus in on marketing, and marketing is a high priority because that makes everything easier, because when cash flow is coming into the business, the decisions get easier and I don't have to be put into a
Right.
position where my team members can't make their bills because I couldn't pay them. It's a learning experience for you, not something to be avoided. In fact, some of the best growth that you're going to have is going to come from the things that you're labeling as a failure. Right? Because you may not learn it in any other way. It may have
Yeah.
to get so painful that choosing to change how you perceive money and how you show up in your business is far less painful to go down the path of change and the unknown than staying in the known, because staying in the known sucks. It's known, so it's comfortable, but it still sucks. So sometimes these failures, as we're labeling them, is actually there to serve you and help you grow. I would not be where I am right now and running a database business and helping people grow teams if I hadn't fucking shut this business down 3 years ago.
Right.
I had to go through that to learn how to run a business differently because I was running it into the ground and it stressed me out. And I don't want that for anybody else. But I needed to figure out what was I doing wrong that had it be such a miserable experience and tank everything inside me. And so I let go of the things I wouldn't let go of in any other way. I let go of the meaning I was placing on the business and the micromanagement I had with my team, and keeping team members on that weren't productive just because I liked them. Like, I had to go through the painful process of being confronted with the decisions I was making that was not getting me any closer to the result. So your failures are beautiful. They are to be embraced. They hurt for a reason, but that's the cool thing about entrepreneurship is that you can change it at any point. You can make a different decision. And sometimes we have to have the awareness of what's not working in order to be able to change it. And so while yes, we can fear and try and stay away from these things, sometimes they're going to be our greatest teachers.
Right.
Okay. So respect other people's income. I want you to just challenge this belief on your own for the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Anytime that belief comes up of like, ooh, I don't know if I should offer that, or ooh, maybe not. Just put it out there and get used to a rejection. That a client says no, or I can't afford it, and not have it sway you in any which way. Your job is to present the opportunities, whether it's adding on a service, adding on retail, just challenge the belief that like other people's incomes, the little bit that because you don't know everybody's income. You don't know where their expenses are, right? You know a very small fraction of what they say. Just challenge it and just test it of like giving them an opportunity to invest in something or add on a service or come back for something new, so that you start reworking that belief in your brain.
Okay.
So if you're responsible for somebody else's income, there's a clear distinction to make between being responsible for someone and responsible to someone. I am not responsible for your guys' results in your business. How could I possibly be responsible? I am not in charge of making your decisions. Therefore, I am not responsible for the results that you get. I am not responsible for you logging in and going through the trainings. I am not responsible for you implementing the trainings. I'm not responsible for you showing up to the call. I have zero responsibility for you all and your results. I am responsible to you to provide the opportunities and the education that I said I would in our calls for you to get into this program. Do you understand the difference of responsible for versus responsible to?
I'd never thought of it that way, but yeah.
Especially when you get into an educator, you can start to really start to think that your clients' results are like, I have to get them the results. I don't have to get you results. I want you to. I'm going to do everything I can to support you in getting the results, but I ultimately cannot decide what you do in your business. Just like you can't decide for a client taking their card out of their wallet and handing it to you, or booking an appointment with you, or getting a client to reach out to you through a DM so you can get it. You don't have any responsibility over that. This is also where that codependency comes in. When you can finally heal some codependency stuff, you realize you really have no control over other people at all. What you can do is present the opportunity to come and be a client. You can present the opportunity of, here's results that our current clients get when they follow our aftercare, when they follow this protocol that we have, or they experience this amazing relaxation when they come get this massage. We can present the opportunity, but I am not responsible for any results. I can't be, because I can't make their decisions for them. So that's a really good shift, that you're responsible to their income by way of the paycheck. You can present opportunities by performance-based incentives. If you want to learn how to do that, we cover that in the mastermind, to help them grow their income if they want more income. But you're not ultimately responsible if they actually do the things that earn the money to get the bonus, right? Or doing the job, right? If they're not doing the job, either they need to be trained and you can present the training, but if they still don't do it, then they don't have a job. That's not your choice. They chose to quit by not performing at the level that they needed to. So it is a shift of looking at where you're responsible versus where you have no control.
Yeah.
Cool. So responsible for versus responsible to. Okay.
That's a mindset shift.
Oh, just a touch. I haven't had this conversation in this group yet, so I love this. Danielle, you've never heard me talk about that before, right? Like responsible for versus responsible to. I don't think we've ever covered that. Yeah. Okay. So how are you feeling about the failed?
I don't think we've covered it either, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Will you remind me on our next mastermind call to talk about that? Because I think it's important too. So now, Renee, based on
is that tomorrow?
Oh, fuck it, I don't know. No, we just had the hot seats are done for the month of next month. Yeah, it's like the second week in April is the next one. Okay. So Renee, on those first two fears, not being able to afford them and responsibility for someone else's income, how strong are those fears now?
Not as strong as they were 20 minutes ago. I mean, like,
right.
My mind is definitely like, Yeah.
And isn't it interesting because nothing has actually changed in your business? It's just your
No.
mindset.
No. It's just
That's how powerful perspective shifting is. You can do this for anything that you fear in your life, any relationship. There's always a different way to look at a situation to find how you want to feel. So now those fears are not necessarily fears. There's something to be aware of and maybe intentional about not creating, but there's certainly not something to be afraid of. Because being afraid means
it's
you're not
not as
going to do
much
it.
of a fear now. It's more of just a thought or a concern.
Yeah.
And
And something to be aware of. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into that last one, failure of not doing it correctly. So you gave me kind of a couple of different ones. Onboarding correctly or trained correctly, and that your clients trust you to offer, and you need a team member who's going to offer the same services as you do. And what if a new hire comes in and does not provide the same service, therefore negatively affect my business? These are all theories and catastrophic thinking, right? The
Right.
solution for these is a really effective onboarding process, which you're going to learn. So the reason why these feel scary is because they're not specific. They're
That's
vague.
true.
So how do you know if somebody is onboarded or trained correctly?
Oh, I'll see that in their work after they're taking on clients.
Okay. And once you go through the onboarding training, you'll have even more specifics on that, right? But let's just say they reach the end of their 90 days and their work just isn't where you would like it to be. What happens then?
Well, I guess at that point I would have two options. We would either, I would either have to let them go, or if they were on the cusp, but maybe have a coaching talk about things need to improve and this is what you need to do to improve.
Yeah, we call it a performance improvement plan, right? We extend their training and their onboarding to solve for the specific things. So sometimes what we'll see, now I will say, just for those of you that haven't been into an onboarding process with someone yet, the first time that you're onboarding someone, you're not going to be thorough because there's going to be things that you forget or overlook. And you will see in your team member where she's starting to glaze over because you've skipped stuff that she's just, if she's never done this service before, she doesn't know what you're talking about, she may start to glaze over. And as you do more onboardings and as you get used to teaching other people how to do it your way, you'll start to fill in those gaps. But it's going to be a real big mirror for you of how effective you are at communicating what you do. So Renee, to some extent, when you're talking about your clients trust you 100%, there's a formula and way that you do it. It has just become so innate to you and you're so seasoned in it that it is automatic for you. So now is your challenge and your responsibility to start to break that down. How do you create that trust with your clients? How do you show up in the call or in the when they walk in to lead the appointment, especially when we're talking about Brazilian and really intimate services? There is a way that you present themselves that the client feels at ease, and being able to document and create that and teach somebody else to do that is part of your responsibility because you have the magic sauce to do it. And if you can do it, you learned how to do it. You probably had really awkward exchanges with clients that you learned, okay, we don't joke about, I don't know, smells when the lady's got her legs open. I mean, I don't know what it is, but you know, you probably had experiences that you learned that's not the way we do it. And so part of that is your team is instilling that in your team member and helping support them that, I don't know, I'll just give an example. Like we don't use boss babe in any of our language in anything we put out. I hate it. Like nails on a chalkboard to me. And I have to train new team members, especially social media managers, because boss babe is a big thing in like the women business owner world. And I hate, but it is a way that we have our brand language and the way that we show up. My social media, if you guys follow us on social media, I have not written a caption in probably 5 years. All the content that we have, I have somebody who's overseas, whose first language is not English. I've trained her to speak like me. And now she is just like a mini me out there. I don't touch our social media other than the DMs. So you can train people to even look and sound, not maybe look, but like sound like you and come off as you with enough training. They just have to learn you. They have to learn that you do it. They have to have expectations to meet. You have to check in with them. Okay, how, if a client has a complaint about XYZ, how would you do it? Okay, here's how I would do it. So there are ways for you to break down those steps and have it be a process so that the client is having consistent results and experience across any team member. Okay. So part of that is just documenting it and starting to map it out. So that might be a really fun exercise for you to do. I would say you could probably wait till you get into the onboarding trainings because you'll have to then too. But what is it I'm doing that makes clients feel comfortable? Like challenge yourself. Maybe the next new client you have, be intentional about like, what are the steps? Okay, I make eye contact when she walks in and I greet her and I say her name because I've already looked at her schedule to see who she is. So she feels comfortable and that she's known the second she walks in to a new place, right? That is a process that you can teach somebody else to follow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So all of this is just a process that we use to solve it. And your onboarding will evolve and develop over time. The first time you guys do an onboarding process, it may not work out all that well. You're going to be learning just as much as they're going to be learning, right? But over time, it's going to become so processed out and so step by step that you can actually have your current team members train new team members. So Victoria's in that spot, Coach Victoria. She has a new team member. She's actually hired 2 new team members in the last 6 months. And her team, the other team members, have taken a part in her onboarding so that Victoria doesn't have to be there for all of the trainings. And she said they have, you know, the notebooks because Victoria's a big notebook girl. And she's like, okay, team, like when I'm not here on Saturday, here's what Tammy needs to go through. And here's the 3 different things that I want her to know by the end of the day. Sloan, you're going to do this half of it when you have this gap on this appointment. And then Sydney, you're going to do this other half when you have this break. Cool, right? Because they know how to do it because I've been doing it for so long. So all of that is process based. So all of that to say, fuck your failure. It's a choice.
That's right.
But I think anytime that you're afraid of something, really check the belief that you have and start to poke holes in that belief and see if there's a different perspective that serves you to keep moving forward. So now when I say you'll probably have interviews and, you know, maybe even be hired by the end of April, are you afraid or are you excited?
I'm more excited than afraid.
Boom.
I mean, like it's shifted for sure.
Yeah. And that's perspective shifting. This is all I do is coaching, right? It's just changing the way that you're looking at things, because when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. It's not scary anymore. You have a beautiful opportunity to learn at a minimum. And if that means that failure is a part of it, however you're labeling failure, good, because you're going to learn so much more from your failures than you will from your successes. I should make that a whole podcast episode. Okay. So Renee, you've got your homework here. Cool.
Okay.
Oh, I put hold on. How did I get? Oh, I messed this all up, Danielle. I'm so sorry. All right, Natalia, did you get your spreadsheet linked?
I'll fix it.
Okay. Thank you.
So I think that what happened is that you have my Hotmail email, and that when I open the spreadsheet, I open it with my Google email. So that's what is happening right now. So I'm gonna have to send you my Gmail email, maybe.
No, it should be whatever the document is. It doesn't matter on our end. What email you're using. If you have this spreadsheet pulled up online, we'll be able to view it no matter what. Because you made the copy, right?
Yes, and I have it, and I'm able to edit it, but I don't know why when I share it with you, you cannot edit like when I when I press the 3 dots, it's not allowing me to share with you. So I think it's because when I automatically open it, it just opens with my Gmail account. I don't know.
Right. But it still should be able to share it with you.
Look.
Maybe just duplicate it as under the Gmail account. So go in and make a copy, and that should save it to your Gmail account. And then just use that Gmail account version from here forward.
Okay.
So you could do that. Let me show you real quick on Renee's spreadsheet how you add in rows really quickly. Okay. So what you're going to do is there's a couple of different ways to do it. We'll just find the easy way. Highlight whatever the row is. So you were saying your P&L, right?
Yes.
There's your profit and loss. You're trying to add more space.
Yeah.
So monthly P&L template. So what you're going to do is click here, go to insert row, insert one row above or below, whichever you want. Don't worry, Renee,
So I
I'll do all
was
this.
doing that, but
Yep.
it wasn't getting
The
the
formula wasn't
formula
updating.
in. That was the thing. So I was able to add on like rows, but then I was able to add like the name of the treatment and everything, but on the
Okay.
percentages, it wasn't giving me the percentage that I needed.
Okay, so let me show you. Just the formulas are already in there. So the only thing I want you to change in the formulas is the number. So this one looks like it automatically updated, but we'll go through each section of these to make sure. So this one should be all of these cells combined. So basically from column B, cell number 5 through 26. So I look up here, if it does not say 5 and then 26, this little semicolon means a range. So B5 through 26, then I want to go in and manually just put in, oh, I need it to be 26. Okay. So that's, and it'll show you, do you see how it just highlighted the whole section?
Yes.
So if I notice any sections are missing, then the formula isn't correct. Okay. So same thing over here. It's also the sum of C5 through C26. Cool. When you get here, it should be C30, C31. So again, if you're adding in anything, actually, I think it's probably this one that needs changing, B27. So when I added in a row here, originally, hi babies, originally it was cell C26. And if the gross profit says, or B26, if this number is missing, right, you can click on whatever it is to find what it should be highlighted as. So if you notice that it's not in the total revenue spot, then you can adjust the number. Don't adjust necessarily the column, those shouldn't change, but maybe the cell number is incorrect. If for whatever reason that's not working, again, if you can share it with us, we can go in and fix it really quickly.
Okay. I don't know how to share it right now.
Yeah, I think if you make a copy of whatever version you have with the Hotmail thing, and save it under your Gmail, maybe that won't be as much of an issue, because I've never had it where if you're the owner of the spreadsheet that you can't adjust the permission settings. So that's something that I'm not quite sure what happened there. But if you want to go back in and be logged in under your Gmail account and either make a copy of your spreadsheet or restart over with ours, it'll probably solve that problem, if that makes sense. Okay. All right, my dear. So that is your homework. Is to go in and you know, because it's gonna be really hard for us to do any sort of work in your spreadsheet if we can't edit. Actually, let me also go into the chat. Let's do this real quick and pull up your spreadsheet again. Okay, so I'm also going to request access to it. You should be able to go into whatever email it's tied to and grant us manual access to. So in the future, we should be able to access it. But like if Victoria tries to get in there, she's not gonna be able to, she's gonna have to request access to, but you should be able to change the permissions. All right, cool. Keep plugging along. And then now you know how to add the cells and whatnot. Okay. Sweet. Lauren, what's going on with you, girl? Oh, what happened here? Hold on. Okay.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good morning. What's going on with the hiring?
So I hired someone and she's starting in like 2 weeks. So
Yay.
My heart's like all beating because I can't believe I'm finally saying that.
I know.
Yeah, so I am like excited. I'm really nervous. I'm all of the things. I'm all of the feels, but I'm I'm feeling a lot. I'm always feeling a lot, but I'm feeling excited. I think she seems like she's going to be like a really great fit. Yeah, so I'm excited. I know I posted a question in the Facebook group about like when I give her offer letter, blah blah blah. I think I was just like getting in my head and overthinking it and overcomplicating it. So I went back and I just rewatched that module and then the onboarding process module, but or the hiring one where it was like you work backwards. And then I was like, okay, so no, I obviously don't need to adjust the 90-day thing in her offer. But yeah, so I already have I'm gonna have her for the first week come in 2 days, just shadow, teach her the booking system, get kind of like the vibe of the studio. And then for the 3 weeks after that, I'm gonna have 2 full day hands-on. And so I've already reached out and sent out like a newsletter. So I've had a ton of, clients like volunteer to be models for her. So I'm gonna be getting that set up. But yeah, I'm very excited. I know, like, I think it's kind of like with what Renee was saying, like I totally like when she was saying like she's nervous and all that kind of stuff, like I totally relate to that. But I think it's once you do it, and I think it feels like, you just kind of you can't I think I keep telling myself like I'm gonna try and train her to the best of my ability, but at the same time, like she is not me. And so like that is what it is. But I will say, with what you teach about the core values and the mission, vision, and values and everything, like she's brand new. So I'm basically training her from scratch, which is totally fine. But she's like very eager. She's very like a lot of the questioning the prompts you give us, like everything, the way she answered them, genuinely, I could pick that up was exactly how I would answer them or what I see.
Yeah.
And so I think yeah, I'm just excited. I'm nervous, but I'm excited. So hopefully I have like good updates.
I think what I'm picking up from both you guys, and I think this is a very it is a transition of maybe being confronted with the fact that the business is no longer just you and your identity around it. It's like this identity shift. If it's now a business that could eventually stand on its own. And it's almost, you can look at it from like a parenting standpoint of like, my baby's growing up, but it is a shift to go, I am the business is me, my clients, about like, we have all of this self-worth tied to the business success and results. And it feels scary to bring somebody else in that might threaten that identity we have. Not that the business can't stand alone, but the identity and life that we've lived in building this thing that now we are entrusting someone else with it. Because I think Renee said something like that, like, what if it affects the business negatively? My clients are used to it. It's now starting to change the business from I to we.
And I totally agree with that. And it's interesting because I think for a long time, that's how I thought I felt. And I think there, is still a part of me that feels that way. But I think a part of me too is now it's shifting to like, okay, I'm excited. I'm definitely ready to train someone to eventually have a little bit more time back in the future. But I think a lot of it now is like that kind of like, am I capable? Can I train someone? Do that? Because I think like that's kind of what I'm worried about is like, okay, am I going to be able to get her clients? Am I going to be able to like, because I'm not just responsible for myself. I'm also responsible for this other person. So I think that is what kind of scares me, but I will say,
but isn't that interesting? Well, go ahead and finish. I'll say what I'm going to say here in a second, but go ahead and finish that statement.
But I think that what I keep reminding myself and is that, as now that this is like, I've talked about this for kind of dabbled in it for a couple of years, not only since I've been working with you, but I feel like with clients, like some of them I've been like, I want to hire someone and then I never do it. And so I think now that it's really happening, I sent out that newsletter, I'm letting clients know like, okay, I'm going to be bringing someone in. Everyone's very excited and I think just the fact that I've had like 40 clients reach out to be models that are very good clients, like have been
40 clients, I love it.
But just knowing that I'm like, wow, like they trust me enough to be training someone else, that they're willing to put their body out there for her to do Brazilians and to practice on and all that kind of stuff. And so I feel like it kind of goes back to just like, I feel like what we've kind of worked on is more just like my self-confidence, because I think that's truly what it is. And like, I was talking, I had like a therapy session. This is like within the past couple months. And I was kind of letting her know, like, yeah, I'm finally going to hire someone. I've been working with my business coach, blah, 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 forever. And I was like, she's like, well, like, what is it that you're nervous of? And it was exactly that. And it was funny because she was like, a lot of people would say they don't trust someone else. But my first thought when she asked me that was like, I don't know if I can do it. And so because it's not, I don't think that, like, to me, I feel like the same as you teach, and I totally agree. It's like, we can teach anyone to do anything. Everyone has their own touch, get it done enough, especially with waxing. It's just like getting your hands-on training and stuff like that. But I think it's like, you obviously can't teach a personality. So, but I do think that that's kind of what, it's more of a me thing. Like, I don't think it's ever, and I think that's kind of what I've uncovered is like, when I look at the numbers, the data's there, I can afford it and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's more like my self-confidence. And so I think like, I'm really just trying to like, let go of the fear and just step into that. And I know like I don't know who it is on your team that does like the human design, but when I look, I don't, oh, okay. When I look at, when I've had it read before, like certain channels, like it does say that like, I'm like meant to like be a mother, whether that's in business or like, and I'm meant to, I forget what it is. I feel like if I could look it up and show you, like you, Danielle, you'd probably know, but I think it's more just, but it's like this, I forget how it's worded, but it's like, I work well. I have this thing where it conflicts when I'm not like working in my channel, where I want to have someone with me, but at the same time, when I'm like not in the right whatever, I start taking it on. But it's like this like whole thing that's battling against each other, where it's like I want to teach and I want to have people work with me, but like I take it on myself, if I'm even making sense the way I'm explaining it. But yeah,
can you translate what she's saying?
No, I 100% understand what you're saying. So when you're not living in your, I don't know if it's an exact channel, I'd have to look that up per se, but when you're not living in your authentic self, then there is going to be that like, that side of you that kind of comes out. So are you a generator, a manifester?
Manifesting
projector?
She's a manifesting
generator. Okay. So yeah, when you're not living in your authentic self and you're not feeling that satisfaction that you would if you were doing all the right things, you're on the right path, you're going to feel that frustration. I'm a generator, so I completely understand that. So yeah, when you are working against that, you're going to have that kind of like push pull. But yeah, send me your stuff and I'll look at your chart for you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Human design stuff is fascinating.
Yeah. Well, and so I think that's why too, it's like, I think it's this, just me really trying to let go and just know that like, if it's not, it's all just a learning experience. And I think that that's like very hard for me to do. But I think now that I've finally taken this, like, I feel like the past like week, like now that this is actually happening, I'm like, is this really happening? Like, what is it going to be like? Like, it's just, I think because it's such a long time coming for me that I'm finally, and I am very grateful just to be in this program and just not only, but just you having the structure that you give so that it's like we have something to reference. So it's not like it's just like a shot in the dark of like, okay, like, and I think that's also what I have to remind myself is like, this isn't just like a wayward, like, it's not just like a whatever thing, like being intentional about like how it's structured, how I mean, every step of the way and stuff like that. So, but yeah, so that's
so there's steps to follow. Your head and what's happening in your thoughts is where we get the block, right? Because you placed a lot of meaning on this because of what it sounds like time. Like you've been in the program for a very long time, not because it doesn't work, but because you had stuff going on. And so you slow paced it, which is great. Like that's what you needed in that season. But that may have built up this anticipation of like making it a bigger deal to bring someone on than maybe if you just like pull the trigger. Couple of things. Hold on, let me write them down so I don't forget. So you said something about letting go. What is it you're letting go that makes it feel heavy or big? What are you letting go of?
Letting go of feeling like if it doesn't work out, like I'm not a failure. It was just what I had to do to learn and to maybe do it different the next time.
Right. So letting go of the belief that prevented you from moving forward because it felt known. You know what it's like to run a business, just you have a lot more control over yourself and how the business grows. And now we have to let go of this belief that served us for a really long time, that kept us safe and in control. And now it feels like if we let go of that belief, we're risking failure. We're risking all of our hard work and everything we've poured into this just going away. Unless you do it so blatantly illegal that you get sued and they sue the pants off of you and you have to shut your business down because you're filing bankruptcy, there's very few instances where a team member not working out is going to be an epic failure. In fact, it's going to be a lot of learning. And you may not get it right the first time, and that's okay. Right? Often, and I think because we find that people who've hired before they follow our processes and those that never hired and just followed our process, those of you that hired just following our process for the first time, you very rarely have an instance where you ignored a red flag in the interview question because of the questions that we teach you. We teach you how to weed those things out, but people who have hired before, usually we can go back and go, did you have a gut instinct? Was there something that they said in the interview that maybe could have indicated 6 months from now this was going to be the situation? And almost, I would say 99% of the time, there's always like, well, she didn't answer, or she didn't like show up to her first interview, so we rescheduled. I'm like, well, she didn't show up. Well, now all of a sudden you're having a problem with her attendance. Like that tracks. People will show you instances, and honestly, this applies to dating too. It's like they show you who they are very early on. We just tend to be in like rose-colored glasses of like, she's amazing, she's so funny, like I would just vibe with her, but I ignore the fact that like she showed up in sweatpants. Like, meh, okay. So there is something to be said that like having that awareness and those experiences to be able to go look back and trust your intuition, because your intuition was probably there, but maybe you didn't trust it. And then you learned that's why that came up for me. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think like exactly what you said, like that's also something I feel like I'm being very, I know that myself and that just how I am. And I'm being very, that was something when I was interviewing that I was being really mindful of like, they're a cool person. We get along. Like there was it was between the girl who I hired and another girl who came in, and it was funny because like I have pugs, and so like one of my clients had given me like this little pug book, and I have like books on like the coffee table or whatever. And so she walks in, she's like, "Oh my gosh, the book!" And then she like had 2 pugs too, and so it was just, but not
like,
the
it's a sign,
not the one that I hired, but this one. But then it was funny because it was like we did vibe. Me and the one who I didn't hire, we vibed really well. We had a lot of similarities, but it was like when I started asking her the questions, and then from the phone interview, it was interesting to see how it kind of like how she talked about her. She was very complimentary of her boss in the phone interview. And then in the in-person interview, she didn't like start talking bad about her, but she was kind of like, well, like I am willing to like let go of that place to work here because I don't think I'm getting paid my worth. And it came up, right? And then like certain like team building things that she was like, well, I was asked to like get water bottles or something, and I just like felt uncomfortable. And I was like, but in my mind, I'm like, you're getting like, not that it's your responsibility to do that, but if you're getting paid, like I don't want someone to feel like this is all that, like kind of what you
rigid in their
work.
And
I'm very like, oh, well, I'm only here to do this and that's it. And so, and not to say that like my certain expectations, but it just said a lot. And so I think it was more like when she followed up, because I let them know like I have a couple more interviews I'll be reaching out to or whatever. But she followed up, and I think like there was a part of me that felt so bad because I was like, she's such a nice person. But I think being in my mind and just like knowing like it's not about that. It's about like what's best for the business, and not because I'm very emotional and I'm like the vibes, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's very like, that's something that I feel like I've really tried to keep in mind. And I think I'm going to have to really be like pause and remember like it's not about like the feeling, and like it's what.
That's amazing, Lauren.
Yeah, because that's very
that you had that much foresight. Most people in their first thing would have gone for the vibe chick, right?
I was telling Jonathan, I was like, she has 2 pugs, but I'm like, everything else isn't like it was all the red flags that you talk about that, come up in the
but she had pugs.
Yeah, I was like, but she had pugs.
Well, to some extent,
yeah. So
to some extent, when you have because in those cases, I see it as like you were looking for a buddy, right? Like if you have those commonality, and even the vibe check, sometimes you gotta remember the power play that's at hand when you're the boss. You write her checks, and you may have to fire her. And if you are only basing her coming on because you connected really well as humans, and even like, oh, I would enjoy being around her because I think we'd be friends. What happens if she doesn't do her job and you have to let her go? It gets that much harder. So I think you were very discerning and wise to just check yourself on that. Maybe you would have ended up hiring her anyways. And that's not to shame anybody who goes off a vibe check, but a vibe check alone is not going to set you up for success. And you were the fact that you've never hired before and you were already like, that's a little concerning that she said that. That's kind of like, she was complaining about water bottles of all things. Like we have a lot of clients, like water bottles is not something to like bitch and complain about your job, right? Yeah. Like you picked up on those things. So well done on that.
But I think it's because of you, and because of the program and what you teach. So yeah.
Oh, thanks. I will take all the words of affirmation today. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the paying someone else, and just to plant the seed, and then we'll move on. Isn't it interesting that you guys would be so willing to sacrifice your own pay? And that's not as concerning as all of a sudden now I'm responsible for somebody else's pay. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's how much of the sacrifice we're willing for us to suffer and us to like struggle with. But when it comes to somebody else, all of a sudden, oh no. So kind of talk me through, because I think Renee was having that as well, of like, why is it okay for you to take on all the risk and responsibility, but now all of a sudden when somebody else is involved, it now gets scary?
I feel like it gets scary because I think I don't take having someone work in the business like lightly, and I think I want them to feel supported and that this was the right opportunity that they took. And I feel, I think that's what it is.
Okay. But how much of that are you responsible for versus to? Right? Or what does that even mean, that they feel like it was a good opportunity for them? Even if it was a good opportunity for them to take it to get out of one situation and then it didn't work out, that's can still be considered a good opportunity, but you may be labeling it as like it wasn't a good opportunity. How do you know if it's a good opportunity for someone or not? That's vague.
That's very true.
Right?
Yeah.
And what is it you're responsible for versus responsible to? So somebody thinking it's a good opportunity is because you've painted it as a good opportunity, right? You have established in the interview process, and mainly in that in-person interview, of what the expectations of the job are, what the job is and what it is not. And the team culture that you're trying to build, which is, in our industry, having anybody who's intentional about talking about a team culture in an interview is a big deal. It's very unique in our industry, unfortunately. So they could see that as a good opportunity. Some people may not care. It may not be a good opportunity because they can't get paid the most that they could get paid somewhere else, right? So it really is discretionary. And for you to, I like that you're wanting to take on a team and that you don't take that lightly by your words. And also this is building out something that's bigger than you. And I think that's really the scary part, but also the empowering part. And that you can get other people into your world that you can pour into in a really significant way. And that to me is more of the responsibility than the paycheck. Think about our industry, the young women that are coming in to apply for these jobs and how moldable they are and how they can experience in this industry. And you have the opportunity to make it a good experience for them, because most people will not experience it to be good. they will feel taken advantage of in a lot of businesses, and then go out on their own. And y'all know how tough it is to go out on your own. And they're going to fail, most of them, just because most business owners fail statistically. And so you're actually creating an opportunity where they could have longevity in this industry by the opportunity and the structure that you have in this job.
Yeah, no, like I feel like what you just said is exactly what my vision is for this, for her.
Yeah.
But I think that's what scares me, is that it's like, can I do that? Like, and I know I can.
Answer that.
And I need to stop doubting myself. And it's funny because like I was like, one of my clients yesterday, I was telling her like, oh, just, I'm going to be bringing someone on. I'm so excited for everyone to kind of like meet her, be around. She's going to be here the next time you come in. And she's like, I was just thinking like, or she's like, I've been thinking, because sometimes it's so hard for me to book with you. And she was like, I was wondering, like, it would be good for you to bring someone on. And I was like, oh, really? And then, we kind of started talking about it. And then I was really like honest with her, kind of just having similar conversation to what we're having. I was like, yeah, I think like for a long time I was just like nervous to bring someone in. And she was like, why? She was like, look, you've had your like, and it was so funny because she was like, she basically was like just very complimentary. But I think it's one of those things where it's like trying to see yourself the way people see you, because so it's just, to what you said, it's like, that's exactly my vision, and that is my goal for her and whatever, and the business. And as it grows more and everything, I think it's just more, I need to get out of my own self-doubt.
Practice the art of detachment.
Yeah, it's fair. Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
It is hard, and it is a muscle and a skill to work. And I do this as well. My own personal life, I relate a lot of this because I'm not in the hiring phase of my business right now, but to dating, right? And to just be present in the moment and not have all these expectations of what this is going to turn out to be 6 months, a year from now, we're going to sail off into the sunset. It's like, what is happening in the moment? Am I happy right now in the moment? Are there red flags in the moment? Are there things that I know long-term ultimately aren't going to work out, and just evaluating them for in the moment, but also being detached from what the expectation is in the future. Of course, we want to hire based on mission, vision, and values. And we may have to, the business may evolve over time, and not everybody may want to go on the journey with you, but to be intentional that you want to create a really great work environment for someone. And in this case, you have an actual person now. So now it's becoming real. Thinking about, you ask the question, can I do this? Instead of asking, how can I do this? How can I create that? Because then we can start to come up with a process involved with how we do that. Because when we have this, can I do this? It's not a very effective question to ask. And people ask themselves really hard, not valuable questions, because can you do this? Of course you can. You can or you can't. Like, it's up to you to decide, yes, you have the ability to do it. When we ask, how can I create an environment that a team member wants to be a part of for a long time, let's say a year or more, then we can actually start to brain dump actual things that we can do. And you have a lot of that format and structure in this program, but it's like, I want to make sure that she's trained really well to be able to produce a Brazilian in 15 minutes or 20 minutes, to be able to talk with clients and make them comfortable from the very first time they meet them, like creating those things so she's set up for success. And then I also want to be able to have perks and benefits and whatever that looks like for you that matters and you value. Like, a lot of the things that I want people to start to like incorporate in their perks and values before we ever get into like medical dental is mental health benefits. I think if every single one of you could get to the point where you can pay for them to have some sort of like online therapy or something, or PTO days or mental health days, the amount of value that that's going to create in a team member's life at a very low cost to you is going to be exponential, right? Where they feel like they're seen as a whole person, not just a cog in a machine. Like, all of those things become something to plan for and start to execute on. So then the question of like, can I really do this? Well, I already have the game plan and the map on how to do it. So yeah, I can do it. But now we have to, and I think that's what's the beautiful thing about that client, was like, she reflected back to you what we already know. Same thing for those of you that do anything that have to do with a client's face. We already know they're beautiful, but when we start to enhance or improve upon their experience, now they start to see the beauty that we already knew was there. And so I think you're getting that back as a reflection to you of like, clients are like, well, duh, she should have hired a year ago. Like, she's awesome. And you're like, I don't know. There's so much that I have to control. But now you're having that experience of, there's somebody who's really excited to work for you.
Yeah.
And even that can feel a little polarizing and like, what? Like, what do you mean you're excited to work here?
And that's how
I've never done this before.
that's literally how I feel. Like it's been about a week. So like since I sent her the offer letter, but like when she replied back, she was like, I'm over the moon to work with you. And I was like, oh, like, you know, and so I just think I think it's allowing it because I mean, I don't think that you're surprised. I'm probably struggling with something, but I do think that it's like, yes, not putting so much worry about like what is it going to be like in 2 months or 6 months, and just kind of like taking it in, but also knowing that like, yes, take it in, but it's been so intentional to this point, so it's okay to, you know,
reap the rewards of all of the energy and effort you've put into developing this and moving forward in the process. Yep.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a roller coaster ride. Welcome. You guys are gonna have your honeymoon period for like the first 2 weeks, and then she's gonna do something that you're like, we've been over this 6 times, and then you know you're gonna come on these calls and we're gonna walk you through it. Because even Victoria had that. She's trained and onboarded several people. She coaches to it, and she called me the other day with like having a freak out about her newest team member on something that I was like, it's okay, it's not the end of the world. Let's solve for it. She's like, I must be hormonal.
It's always that, right?
Right.
Just
well, thanks, Lauren. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome,
so much.
awesome. Well, let us know how it goes. I have no accountability for you other than just, it sounds like you got a great onboarding plan in place. And I think you're just going to need to start working through that expense and any support you need, and like helping to teach her. If you haven't taught somebody before, sometimes that can bring its own challenges, but you got this, girl. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay. All right. Last one up is Miss Julie. Miss Julie, do you have any questions? Anything you want to go over? Thank you all for coming to my TED Talk today. You available, Julie? If not, we will wrap up. Okay, Julie, I'm going to assume that you're unavailable to chit chat. If you have any questions, you can post in the Facebook group or jump on our call. Our next call is next Thursday, April 4th, at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And I will see you all then. Great chat today. Loved the mindset stuff, guys. Good work. We'll talk soon. Bye.